This is a review of the new 16-inch Xencelabs display tablet, and I'll be comparing it to others on the market, so the Wacom Cintiq 16 and the XP Pen Pro 16 2nd Gen. I've chosen those brands because XP Pen, in my opinion, is the best budget brand, and Wacom is considered to be the top brand. Now, before we start, it's important to say two things. One, I'm not sponsored by Xencelabs, but they did send me the tablet for free and asked me to review it. This will, of course, be a completely honest review. The other important point to make is that I've not used a Wacom Cintiq for a few years and don't actually have one to test, so this is looking at the specs and pricing rather than the full drawing experience, but I have some general experience to call upon. So let's start with the price. XP Pen, my favourite budget brand, is currently under £500, and that's the same in dollars as with all these prices. Now, I say it's currently under £500 because they've got a sale on at the moment. They often have sales, however, so it's often under $500, but the normal price is $550. It's definitely worth saying that that is a really good price for what I would say is a nice bit of kit. I really like the XP Pen Pro 16 2nd Gen. I've been using it for the last year and it's been my portable tablet of choice. The Xencelabs is next at just under £1,000, so roughly twice the price. And that's for the essentials. You can get a bundle for just under £1,200 and you get the quick keys and a stand. You can see here all the things that come in the essentials box with this handy graphic. And it's worth noting that you get 2 pens in the essentials. Wacom is next at £1,400. You also get slightly less in the box too. You can see a list here. You get the pen stands and all the wires, but not much more. So next let's talk about the connection to the PC or laptop. And the big question here, is it portable? Both Xencelabs and XP Pen only need a USB-C to power them and connect to the laptop. So that's just one wire, making them nice and portable. The Wacom, as I understand it, needs both a USB-C and an HDMI. Not awful, but that is more cables to have to lug around with you. So they're all portable, but Wacom very slightly more awkward. So how are they when you first connect them up and the drivers and getting started? Well, this is why I would choose XP Pen out of the budget brands. It's often a problem with budget brands that the drivers are a bit glitchy and they start working and then stop working. XP Pen I've found to be brilliant and I haven't had any problems. They always work first time of asking and keep working. You do, however, have to calibrate your screen by tapping the pen on each of the corners, but it's not a big deal. As for the Xencelabs, it's a similar story with the drivers, work with no problems, no glitches. There's also no calibration needed, it just works straight out of the box. You obviously need to program your pen buttons to the different programs, so Photoshop or Blender, which are the two that I used, and you can program different buttons to do different things in the program. There's 2 things I like about Xencelabs here. They've got 3 buttons on one of their main pens, and that could be slightly useful, and it comes with 2 different pens. Not only is that great if you lose one, but you can actually program them differently for the same program. So you could swap out pens in the same program to do different functions if you needed to. As for the Cintiq, I can't really comment here on the newer versions, but generally I've found the drivers to be okay. They were a little bit glitchy at times, but that was a couple of years ago now. So let's take a quick look at the specs. Start with the screen, they're all roughly 16-inch of course, but the XP Pen is actually the full 16-inch, and Xencelabs and Wacom being just over 15.5, so a tiny weeny bit smaller. However, the XP Pen is kind of 2.5K resolution, whereas the Wacom and the Xencelabs are 4K. So the resolution is nicer with the higher priced brands. You get a much sharper image, which is obviously better when you're drawing. In terms of screen technology, the Xencelabs is OLED and the Wacom is IPS. I don't think there's a lot in it, but apparently the OLED is slightly nicer for contrast. I couldn't actually find the screen tech for the XP Pen, but I'm not noticing a huge amount of difference in contrast. Maybe a tiny bit, but not too much. If you have them next to each other, you might notice, but otherwise it's not a big deal. To be honest, unless you're a super pro artist, you're probably not going to see a huge amount of difference, in my opinion anyway. In terms of the size and weight, which of course makes a difference for portability, the XP Pen is 1.8 kilograms. The Wacom is slightly heavier at 1.9 and the Xencelabs is 1.2, so a reasonable amount of difference there in terms of the weight. Not that they're hugely heavy, but it could be significant when you're traveling around with a laptop bag and so forth. And on that note, in terms of the actual thickness, the Xencelabs is 12mm while the Wacom and the XP Pen are closer to 20 and 22. So again, the Xencelab is kind of winning out in these places. Now, of course, the main area to look at is the drawing experience. Again, I can't completely comment on the Wacom as it's been a little bit too long to compare, but I can say that the XP Pen, the budget brand, is a great drawing experience. Most artists, in my opinion, will be very happy with it. But the Xencelab is just that tiny bit nicer. It's hard to fully describe, but there's just a little bit more extra comfort there, slightly smoother, straighter lines and curves, with just a little less line wobble. The pressure also feels like it flows a little bit nicer. It's not that much, and it's actually quite hard to tell. And I would actually say, for those that are worried about whether you can afford a Xencelab, you'll probably find the XP Pen is all you need. You of course lose out on the resolution going from 2.5 to 4K. So if you are using a graphics tablet a lot, then I would certainly say spend that extra money because it's worth it for that slightly more comfortable drawing experience, but the resolution upgrade is quite a big thing. It's worth saying that the parallax on all these brands is really great. That's the difference or distance between the pen and your drawing surface, so the thickness of the screen. All these three brands use laminated screens, which means it's really close and therefore a really nice experience. It feels more like real drawing. As for the colors, all apparently are very similar on paper with the Adobe RGB scales, all high spec and pretty much the same. As I've said before, you might see a little difference in the contrast when they're sat right next to each other, but it's fairly minor. In terms of compatibility with different programs, they seem to work fine in all. I haven't had any problems at all with either of the two devices, and I never had that problem in a sense with Wacom also. So what's my overall opinion between the three and which should you buy? Well, it's not a completely fair comparison as I don't have a Wacom to test the more recent drawing experience. But if I was in the market for a new drawing tablet that was portable, based on my experience of the three, I would be choosing the Xencelab. It's nice to have the 4K, so that rules out the XP Pen. But again, if you're on a budget, then that's definitely absolutely fine. But I would choose the Xencelab over the Wacom just because of the difference in portability with the weight and the width. The fact that you only need a single cable as well as the price being slightly less. You also get that little bit more out of the box with Xencelab, which is a bit of a bonus. But like I keep saying, students, hobbyists, or if you need a graphics tablet but maybe not a heavy user, then I'd probably go with the XP Pen to save a bit of money. But again, you aren't getting the full 4K resolution. Now, the one slight downside that I see with Xencelab is that you can't buy the stand separately. You have to get it in the bundle with the quick keys. Although I can see a lot of people wanting the quick keys, but what if you've already bought the 24-inch and you've got the quick keys? In that case, you might just want the stand, but you have to buy the quick keys with the stand. I don't see why that's not sold separately in some way. It's certainly not a deal breaker, but it would be nice to be able to buy that stand separately. It's quite a nice stand, it folds down really flat and it's quite stable. So all in all, I think Xencelabs have done a great job, and in my opinion, beating Wacom with this new 16-inch tablet. I would certainly love to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments below. Also, you might want to read the comments and keep an eye on the description in case things change in the next few months, and you can hear about any updates. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.